Welcome everyone. The webinar will begin in just a second and will be recorded. Connect with the campaign for grade level reading on social media. On Facebook, like the page Campaign for GLR, and on Twitter, follow the account at Reading by Third. Please use hashtag Learning Tuesdays and hashtag GLR Reading and tag us to tweet anything you learn from today's webinar, and we will be sure to retweet. We encourage you to share your questions, reflections, and observations on social media. Once again, feel free to connect with us on social media. And once again, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sierra Sanchez, and I will be behind the scenes helping to produce this webinar. I have just a few housekeeping details before we get started. First, we would love for you all to introduce yourself, so please use the chat box at the bottom of the screen to share your name, city or state, and your organization. Be sure to select panelists and attendees so that we all know who is here. All attendees are in listen-only mode, but we encourage your engagement by posting questions in the Q&A box. We will dedicate the last portion to respond to the questions you post during the discussion. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be emailed on Friday to everyone who registered, and we are streaming the webinar on Facebook Live. Lastly, we will be posting a brief on-screen evaluation during Q&A and highly encourage you to respond. This just helps us with our commitment to continuous improvement at the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. Lastly, before we start, I would just like to call your attention to our upcoming GLR Learning Tuesdays webinars with exciting double features for the next 2 weeks. Next week on October 20th, first at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be hosting a Funder to Funder featuring the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and other philanthropic partners discussing a collective impact initiative focused on advancing equity and education in the Pacific Northwest. We hope you will join us for Global and National and Still Global, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in Washington State. Then at 3 p.m. Eastern Time that day, we hope you will join us again for our third show and tell session, showcasing promising innovations in early childhood development in partnership with Promise Venture Studios, this time focused on transforming well-being through social and emotional development. On October 27th, we have another double header, as you can see on the slide. Please save the date and keep your eye out for more information via email, and we will be sure to add a link in the chat box for more information and registration for these upcoming opportunities. Joining you now is Emily Samos, consultant with the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. Thank you and enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Sierra, and hello, everybody, and thank you so much. Welcome to our GLR Learning Tuesdays webinar today titled Telenovela as Teacher, Innovations with Univision, Too Small to Fail, and Literacy Partners. And as you likely know, supporting successful parenting to advance school readiness in their young children has been a key strategy for the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, with research showing that babies and infants soak up words, rhymes, songs, and images. We know that this is an essential step in early brain and language development. Simple, everyday interactions with young children, like talking, reading, and singing, help build their vocabularies, prepare them for school, and lay a strong foundation for lifelong learning. It is extremely important to reach parents of young children with these messages about how easy yet how critical it is for them to talk and read with their infants and toddlers to support their early development. And now, with the pandemic precipitated learning loss and recent statistics showing that a dramatic drop in kindergarten enrollment this year, it has become even more important to get these messages to parents who may be keeping their young children at home. And so in response to the current education crisis, the GLR campaign's Learning Loss Recovery Challenge series of Learning Tuesdays webinars is lifting up effective strategies and approaches for mitigating learning loss and supporting children's development. And today's webinar continues this informative series. We are very excited to feature an impactful partnership that is innovating media strategies to reach parents, specifically Latino parents and communities, with actionable information to slow learning loss and help young children stay on track to achieve early school success. Our hope is that you will be able to both make use of and share the resources and ideas discussed today to reach and support parents with messages and to encourage the early brain and language development of their young children. And before we meet our featured speakers, I have the privilege of introducing our moderator and renowned early education leader, Patty Miller of Too Small to Fail at the Clinton Foundation. Patty will then introduce our panelists today and engage them in a discussion of their innovative partnership. Patty is CEO of Too Small to Fail, which is the early childhood initiative of the Clinton Foundation that includes a public awareness and action campaign to promote the importance of early brain and language development, along with tools for parents. Miller previously spent 5 years as Vice President of Public Policy for Sesame Workshop and also served as Vice President of the Children and the Media program at Children Now. So we're so excited to have you, Patty, and now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily. And thank you to everyone who's joining us here today. It's just so exciting to see so many friends and colleagues from organizations across the country who've signed up. I'm also excited to see so many new organizations and potential partners here today. And I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. Also, on behalf of Too Small to Fail and the Clinton Foundation, I just wanted to extend my sincere thank you to Ralph Smith, Yoli Flores, and Emily Samos, just for giving us this opportunity to talk about this partnership and initiative that we've been working on for several years. Before we dive into today's conversation, I wanted to start by introducing today's really terrific presenters. We're going to start with Claudia Bajorquez, who is the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Social Impact with Univision. Claudia is a driven leader with almost 10 years of experience in managing high impact strategic partnerships for both Univision and MTV networks. And at Univision, she helps lead the strategy, implementation, and development of social impact campaigns and initiatives across the company's various platforms. And then we'll hear from Stephen Massey, who is Senior Advisor for Too Small to Fail with the Clinton Foundation. And Stephen has been leading this Univision partnership on behalf of Too Small to Fail since its inception. And Stephen, for the past 20 years, has cultivated dozens of high impact initiatives across the United States and abroad between Fortune 500 companies, media companies, nonprofit organizations, major foundations, and government agencies. A first-generation Cuban American, Stephen also served as a White House National Security Fellow in the Clinton administration. And last but not least, we'll be hearing from Anthony Tassi, who is CEO of Literacy Partners. Literacy Partners is a wonderful organization that is really focused on improving literacy and language skills of immigrant and low-income parents of young children. Previously, Anthony led the New York City Mayor's Office of Adult Education under Mayor Bloomberg. And he's also a two-time Emmy Award winning creator, producer, and writer of educational television for English language learners and Hispanic parents. So big thank you to our presenters today. I also just wanted to acknowledge Sandra Gutierrez, the founder and national director of Abriendo Puertos. Unfortunately, due to a family emergency, Sandra was not able to join us today. So we're sorry to miss her. Sandra just is really doing just truly amazing work at Abriendo Puertas. She has also been a longtime advisor to Too Small to Fail since the program's inception 7 years ago. So we're sorry to miss Sandra, but look forward to having her join us on a future webinar. And as we begin this, this conversation today, I just wanted to start by providing just some brief background about Too Small to Fail. As Emily mentioned, Too Small to Fail is the early childhood initiative of the Clinton Foundation. We launched this initiative 7 years ago, predicated on a decade's worth of brain science research. You know, look, all of us on the call know how wonderful it is when a child sits on your lap and you share a story together. There's nothing like it, right? You know, seeing a child's face light up as you read that book together, anticipating what's going to happen on the next page and waiting to find out together. But what we've learned from the brain science research is that it's not just kids' faces that light up, it's their brains that light up. In the first few years of life, more than 1 million, I mean, it's really unbelievable, 1 million neural connections are being formed every single second. And scientists can literally watch these synapses and neurons firing when parents talk read, and sing with their children from the earliest moments. It helps them learn words, it helps them build their vocabularies and develop their brains. But the research also tells us that too many children aren't getting what they need to succeed in school and beyond. We know that children from lower income families hear millions of fewer words than their higher income counterparts. We also know that almost 60% of America's children show up to kindergarten without the language and literacy skills that they need to be successful. And further, many Hispanic families face unique economic, linguistic, and cultural challenges that make it hard to prepare young children to learn. So in 2013, we launched Too Small to Fail, a public awareness and action campaign to provide parents from diverse communities with information about the importance of language-rich parenting and tools so that they could support their young children by talking, reading, and singing to them every day. And our main strategy, and this has been our main strategy from the very beginning, is to meet parents where they are in these everyday spaces that they go with their children. And we focus on innovation. We try to think outside the box of unique ways to reach parents and caregivers that make it really easy for them. This has included partnerships with media companies like Spotify, local businesses like laundromats and grocery stores, and other community spaces like hospitals, WIC clinics, diaper banks, playgrounds, and more. Well, in 2014, we wanted to find out which organizations to partner with to reach Hispanic parents. And we immediately thought of Univision. Not only does Univision have unparalleled reach into Hispanic homes across the country, it has unprecedented trust with the Hispanic community. In fact, in focus groups, when asked where they go to get trusted information about their health or their children's education, Univision was parents' first answer. So for the last 6 years, Univision has worked with us to integrate messages and provide resources to literally millions of viewers all across the country, providing parents with tools and information through television, radio, online content, text messaging, entertainment programming, news content, you name it. I mean, really what's been remarkable about this partnership is that Univision has put the full weight of its incredible network to support parents and children. And they've really worked to help ensure that every Hispanic child can get to kindergarten ready to learn. And what I think has been most unique and most wonderful is that Univision has demonstrated that it is possible to create programming that both entertains and educates viewers. You know, as I mentioned earlier, the Hispanic community faces unique challenges, yet we also know, more importantly, that they hold tremendous assets in their culture, their families, and within their communities, which we have aimed to celebrate through this very unique and special partnership. This work has really been possible because of our incredible partners and supporters, and I wanted to quickly acknowledge and thank Literacy Partners for joining us as a major thought partner and community leader, working to extend the reach of this campaign into communities across the country. I also really want to acknowledge the Heising Simons Foundation and the David and Lucille Packard Foundation. They have supported this work from its inception, and we really couldn't do it without them. And as we talk today, we're really excited to talk about some of the innovative programming models and lessons that we've learned over the years. But we also want to explore and talk about how this work has evolved and been reshaped, particularly as we all deal with this era known as COVID-19. And finally, we're really excited to hear from all of you during the Q&A session. The Campaign for Grade Level Reading has brought together attendees here which just have tremendous expertise and experience. We look forward to your participation and hearing how we can all leverage our collective resources to continue to innovate, adapt, and scale this work going forward, especially during these difficult times for families across the country. And our hope is that this webinar today will not only give you tools and resources to augment the wonderful work you're already doing, but also inspires you to think of unique new ways to reach parents and providers in your own communities. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce Claudia Bojorquez, Director of Social Impact at Univision. And Claudia, I'm wondering if you can start by telling us a little bit about Univision and its history of entertaining, informing, and educating Hispanic America.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Patty, for that wonderful introduction. I'm really grateful to be here today to talk a little bit about our work and our partnership. So if we can just go to the next slide, please. I thought I would start off by quickly talking a little bit about who we are, especially for those that aren't familiar with Univision. Univision is the leading media company in the United States serving Hispanics. Our goal is to entertain, inform, and empower U.S. Hispanics with news, sports, and entertainment content across broadcasting, cable television, radio, and digital platforms in a culturally relevant way. So not only can people watch our content across broadcast and cable, but we also own 63 local affiliate stations in 26 markets across the country, in cities such as LA, Miami, Dallas, New York, and all other major Hispanic markets, as well as 58 local radio stations. So as you can see with this slide, it represents the reach that Univision has across all of major platforms. So not only are we on cable, broadcast, local TV, radio, but digital and social media, and sporting events as well. If we could go to the next slide, please. If you look at the history of Univision, getting involved in social impact issues has been and always been a part of our DNA. It's who we are and what we stood for the past 60 years. We started out as a small television station in San Antonio geared towards serving the Hispanic community. And we were very much committed to having a connection to that community, serving an audience that wasn't being served, particularly because at the time we were the only Spanish language channel out there. So because of this, our audience has grown up watching Univision and they really trust us. And that special connection with our audience is really unparalleled. Everything we do at the company is fueled by this connection to what our communities expect of us. So our success is based on being a part of that community and not just servicing them as well. And thankfully, because of this, over the years, we have become a trusted messenger on important social issues. So as we figure out what are the issues that we're going to be focusing on, we recognize that there are many issues that impact our diverse communities. But the number one that has come up throughout the years has always been education. So to that end, we purposely created campaigns in this issue to empower our audience so that they really have the tools that are necessary to create a brighter future for themselves and their families. And knowing that Univision isn't really the experts in these issues, we're always looking for partners in these issue areas that can help us craft the correct messaging to reach our audience. So we're the experts in creating the content, but we need help in leveraging experts to help us make sure that the messaging is actually correct. So since 2014, like Patty mentioned, we partnered with Too Small to Fail. We created a campaign called Pequeños y Valiosos, in English that translates to young and valuable. And this campaign is really meant to inform and mobilize Hispanic parents and caregivers to engage in language-rich activities with the young children. This campaign really fit perfectly with the majority of our audience, as the majority of our audience are parents and caregivers. The majority of Hispanic families are usually ones that are constantly working and have 2 or 3 jobs. So a lot of the caregivers that we see are grandparents in itself, and that's what our audience also entails. The campaign has evolved over the years, starting off with a more traditional media campaign that incorporated PSAs and other content messaging. And we'll talk more today of how we've innovated to make something different to reach Hispanics with this important messaging. We're always looking on how we can be innovative, on how we can build on existing messages and resources, and how we can test new strategies and really focus on impact. Can we go to the next slide, please?
That's great, Claudia. Thank you so much. And it would be great to hear more about what you have learned over time too about messaging to reach parents.
Yes, thanks, Patty. So although the campaign has evolved, and we'll touch a little bit upon that as well, our desired outcomes have always really remained the same. We were always focused on increasing awareness of simple things that parents could do at home with their children, and then turning this awareness into change attitudes and behaviors. We've always really been focused on research as well, and research has showed us that storytelling through media and entertainment avenues is really an effective way to influence viewers' knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors. So what better way to incorporate important messaging in an entertaining way that doesn't seem like it's preaching to our audience? And that's really at the core of what Pequeños y Valiosos campaign is that how we can incorporate this messaging in an entertaining way, as well as leveraging not only our talent, but all the resources that we have at Univision in terms of our reach and our platforms and distributing this messaging to all of our audience, is particularly in where they are. So how has our audience responded? They've been truly appreciative of the work we do in providing them with information and resources that will help them, especially at a time when they need them the most. And I'll stop right there and we'll steal the rest of the thunder of my other presenters so they can talk a little bit more about our work.
Great. Thank you so much, Claudia, for that presentation. And now I'd love to turn things over to Stephen Massey to talk and expand upon more on what Claudia has shared and maybe talk a little bit about the evolution of the campaign and the partnership. Stephen.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Patty, for that introduction and for inviting me to be here today alongside some of my great friends and colleagues who I've had the pleasure of working with over the past 6 years. Since 2014, I have had the pleasure of working with Univision on behalf of Too Small to Fail to create Pequeños y Valiosos, which has become a multi-platform public awareness campaign that brings Too Small to Fail's messages about early brain and language development into Hispanic communities and homes across the country. Next slide, please. As Claudia highlighted, our objectives have been to, previous slide. Great. Our objective has really been to inform Hispanic parents and caregivers about the importance of the early years and the lifelong cognitive benefits for young children aged 0 to 5 of a language-rich, loving, and emotionally supportive parenting environment, and to inspire parents and caregivers to transform everyday moments into brain-building opportunities by talking, reading, singing, and engaging in other language activities from birth, while also highlighting the benefits of bilingualism and early numeracy. We've measured our success against 3 outcomes. 1, are we increasing awareness that parents and caregivers can make a big difference in a child's early cognitive and social development? 2, are we changing attitudes such that parents and caregivers prioritize early language and literacy relative to other development indicators? And 3, are parents and caregivers who view our content spending more time engaged in these types of activities like talking, reading, singing, and counting? Next slide. As Claudia has said, over the years, we've focused on innovation, testing new ways to reach parents with these messages and evaluating the audience impact along the way. What started as an integrated campaign that included news and public affairs programming, PSAs, digital tools, and social media resources and community events has really transformed into a fully integrated initiative that now incorporates Univision's many entertainment programs and platforms, including its popular reality shows and soap operas. We've developed and iterated on this campaign over the years by conducting focus groups with Hispanic parents, working very closely with independent evaluators, and informally engaging thousands of Univision viewers at events across the country to better understand the reach and impact of this work. Next slide. Over time, we've shifted away from telling parents what to do and instead towards storytelling and modeling parent behaviors, embedding messages in these popular shows, and even developing our very own primetime telenovela or soap opera, full of engaging and entertaining early childhood content. With that, I'd like to take a few minutes to show a short video with highlights from the past 6 years of this campaign.
Since 2014, Univision has been proud to partner with Too Small to Fail to empower Hispanic parents with tools to prepare their children for kindergarten and beyond.
Rojo, red.
Together, we've created Pequeños y Valiosos, a national campaign that reaches millions, utilizing Univision's wide array of assets, including network and cable television, radio, online and social media, our on-air talent, and stations across the country. We've amassed more than 750 million audience impressions, provided more than 350,000 families with information online and by text, and we've reached more than 200,000 parents and caregivers through community events and other local outreach.
Hablen, lean, canten con ellos.
Our campaign encourages talking, reading, and singing with young children from birth to boost early literacy and brain development. And we provide tools to help young children develop early math skills.
1, 2, 3, 4.
These parenting strategies are integrated directly into Univision's entertainment programs, like the popular reality show Pequeños Gigantes.
A mí me gustan las matemáticas porque se ocupan los números y los números te ayudan mucho en la mente o para contar o para saberte de los números, por eso me gusta.
And La Fuerza de Creer, a two-season original telenovela with embedded parenting messages.
Su cerebro en este momento se está desarrollando a toda potencia.
With partners like the Bezos Family Foundation and literacy partners, La Fuerza de Creer not only promotes important early childhood messages to parents, it's also seen strong ratings in primetime and daytime. And beyond the television screen, Univision and Too Small to Fail operate the country's largest Spanish-language text messaging service, delivering twice-weekly tips and activity ideas to the more than 100,000 parents who have already subscribed. American University research shows our text message subscribers are more than twice as likely to report talking, reading, singing, or engaging in early math activities compared to the national average for Hispanic families. And parents who see our campaign programming on television were significantly more likely to engage in language-rich activities with their children.
2, 6, 2, 6, 2.
Univision and Too Small to Fail believe every child deserves the strongest possible start in life. Together with our partners, we are proud to be working to empower parents with the tools they need to talk, read, and sing with their young children.
Habla inglés y español con tu hijo en tu casa y también vas a tener a un pequeño gigante.
We want every child to have a strong foundation for success in school and beyond.
Wow, that was a great video, Stephen, and definitely like taking a walk down memory lane. So many great clips from over the years. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what we have learned from all of this and from kind of incorporating entertainment, incorporating our messages into entertainment content, and also wondering if you could talk a little bit about the COVID-19 pandemic and how the campaign has been innovating to help meet parents with tools and resources.
Sure thing. Well, first, I think we've really found that integrating parenting messages directly into Univision's existing entertainment platforms, including its popular reality shows, has been a really effective strategy. You know, there's a lot of research about the role of entertainment programming in shifting knowledge, attitudes, and behavior on a range of public health and other social issues like smoking cessation, sexual health, teen pregnancy, seatbelt safety, and other topics. Our hypothesis was that we might be able to replicate some of that impact on early childhood issues. Over the years, we produced, for example, 30 segments on Univision's popular reality show called Pequeños Gigantes that features really inspiring interviews with the contestants themselves, who are all young children, and their parents. And these segments really focus on ways that parents can help young children develop their talents by engaging in these simple activities like talking, reading, singing, counting, speaking two languages, etc. These integrations alone have surpassed 80 million viewer impressions for what we think is really strong, empowering, and positive content that models behaviors. Second, I think we found that embedding messages about early literacy in telenovelas and soap operas and other scripted content has also really meaningfully shifted parent attitudes and behaviors, especially if the messages are packaged alongside storylines that are positive and hopeful. We brought together some really amazing award-winning soap opera producers and practitioners, including pediatricians, community organizers, and other experts to create a series that aired in prime time, full of real-life challenges and inspiring storylines to reinforce the important role that parents can play in the first 5 years of life. And I know Anthony's going to be showing some of those clips in the next presentation. Third, we've leveraged the audience's really trusted relationship with Univision and its talent to deliver parenting messages and model these behaviors. We know that Univision already has a strong and trusted relationship with its audience, so we wanted to build on that relationship and work with Univision to reach parents in a way that felt authentic, like most authentic to the network. And finally, we found that offering viewers opportunities to stay connected to the content through community events or social media or text-based resources have really helped to reinforce the campaign messages and create a community of support for parents. Now, you asked about how we pivoted the campaign in the wake of COVID, and I'll say that at Univision and at Too Small to Fail, I think we recognized that there was an important opportunity for our campaign to really shift to support parents. Next slide, please. There were several key factors, I think, that helped explain why we wanted to lean in so quickly after the beginning, or right at the beginning of the pandemic. First, we know that there's a concentration of Hispanics in urban communities, and especially in areas like Queens and the Bronx, Miami-Dade, and parts of Los Angeles that were early hotspots. We also know that there's a concentration of Hispanic families in essential service industries, and that many Hispanic grandparents were caring for young children. So health recommendations limiting contact between Hispanic kids and older adults were creating some real challenges for childcare. We also know that there's a significant subset of Univision's audience who isn't documented, and so they didn't have access to many of the government services and unemployment benefits at the beginning of the pandemic. So we knew early on that Hispanic parents and the broad network of family, friends, and neighbors who help care for kids would need special attention and support. So by late March, we had pivoted our campaign with Univision to focus squarely on supporting parents during COVID, with a focus on transforming everyday moments at home into learning opportunities. Next slide, please. We delivered COVID-related messages via talent integrations across the network and with many local stations. Univision anchors spoke candidly and directly to viewers about these issues, and in some cases broadcast from their own homes with their own children. Too Small to Fail developed an indoor activities guide to support parents, which we translated into Spanish and co-branded with Univision. And to date, Too Small to Fail has distributed more than 70,000 of these kits and guides, along with books to families via World Central Kitchen, laundromats, and diaper banks. We've also created a series of special recurring segments on Despierta America. It's a network morning show that has featured COVID-specific content for parents of young children, as well as tips, tools, and activity ideas to support learning at home. As part of this series, which we've called En Casa con Niños, or At Home with Kids, we've developed programming to help parents talk to young children about the pandemic and highlighted ways to manage their own health and well-being in order to reduce stress. And thus far, we've reached about 20 million viewers with this content. And then finally, we've enhanced our text messaging program for parents to 3 messages per week and focused our content on indoor activities, health and safety, and support for parents. We've recruited about 140,000 parents to subscribe to this program since we launched, and reach about 55,000 parents 3 times a week now with these messages. And then finally, we're working with our friends at Literacy Partners to curate a new digital portal and online parenting workshop series that builds on all of this great work. And so I'm excited to hear more about this from Anthony in a few minutes.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephen. That was terrific. And now I'd like to turn things over to Anthony Tassi, CEO of Literacy Partners. And Anthony, I'm wondering if you could expand on the development of the telenovela and how you've linked the audience to resources through your parent workshops. Anthony, you may be on mute.
Thank you, Patty, for all of the inspiring work that you've done in the field of early childhood development. I've learned so much from you, and I've learned an enormous amount from Stephen and Claudia. These are 2 incredibly committed and incredibly creative people. Let's go to the next slide. Our role in educating parents over the years at Literacy Partners, we have found that storytelling really harnessing the narratives of people's everyday lives is the key to supporting them in developing skills and applying those skills in ways that are meaningful for them. And our work with Hispanic families, we are now calling La Fuerza de Familias Latinas. As you can see from the name, it's a real strength-based approach, the power of Hispanic families, the power of Latinx families. And it was really a pleasure to work with Too Small to Fail and Univision on the creation of a telenovela miniseries that started from that spot exactly, of leveraging a cultural form of the novella, embedding it in its stories that really matter to people. And within those stories, you really see how parents and caregivers promote their children's early childhood development as they navigate through the sort of the typical telenovela dramas. And our role in this partnership has been to bring the content of the novella, to bring the campaign that Stephen just talked about, bring that forward into a series of community-based workshops that we were implementing pre-pandemic and that we've converted to Zoom and WhatsApp during the pandemic. But maybe in the next slide, I'd like to show a short clip, about 2 minutes and 20 seconds from this community campaign of workshops. So you can see how the content of a novella is used in the communities across different urban areas.
Yo volví a hago la pregunta. ¿Qué le pareció diferente a esta novela de la novela que estamos acostumbrados a ver?
Telenovela es pura grama. Te enseña cosas que no está a tu disposición de hacer. Pero eso es la realidad que estamos viviendo hoy en día, la comunidad.
The folks that we sat with over the course of a week were really drawn into the material and were really interested in talking about their personal connection to the material and how important it was to work on themselves as parents in order to help their children.
Para nosotras ser mejores madres y para también saber cómo tratar a nuestros hijos y cómo salir de cada problema, buscar una solución.
Hay un grupo de 16 personas en donde cada uno tiene la oportunidad de hablar de qué pasó en su familia o qué no se debe hacer. Tú poder reflexionar acerca de qué está pasando ahí y qué yo puedo hacer en mi vida. Diferente a que si yo estoy en la sala sentada comiendo palomitas, pero es diferente a cuando yo estoy interactuando en un grupo y estamos todos opinando y ahí podemos ir un poquito más allá. ¿Cuál es el personaje favorito o con el que usted se identifica? ¿Ok?
Yo vi cómo el papá de Nico comparaba mucho a sus hijos.
¿Quieres que te la enseñe?
Ahorita no, mi rey. Vamos a cenar primero, ¿sí?
Era un papá soltero.
Pero es el colmo. Parece que tiene uno que rogarte para que hagas las cosas, ¿no? Y si no, no haces nada.
Él no sabía qué hacer con sus dos hijos, cuando lo más importante era el diálogo y el amor. Y yo me identifico como el señor Rafael.
Gente que necesita aprender a leer y a escribir para trabajar. Pero ya yo estoy viejo para eso.
Que yo cuando pensé que por convertirme en madre ya no podía yo hacer nada, no podía seguir estudiando. El estudio es para mis hijos. Y eso me hizo reflexionar mucho. ¿Por qué? No importa la edad, siempre en cuando que uno tenga esa meta de seguir estudiando.
It did evolve.
Thank you. So as you can see, the approach, you can go to the next slide. Our approach is we bring parents and caregivers together. They watch clips from the novella, which is the story, and then they talk about it. And this is, of course, a very culturally relevant form. People love to talk about their novella, give advice to the main characters, argue about what they should or shouldn't have done. But they analyze what they've seen, and then they relate what they have seen back to their own lives. And at the end of each workshop session, they agree on an action that they can take at home together with their families. Next slide. And Stephen mentioned about modeling and how that's a very effective form of education through storytelling. And we think of it as inspiration, where you have a scene in the novella, in this one in particular, where parents are interacting with their children around food, And through discussion, through a group process, then parents decide they're going to go home and do the same thing in their homes. They're going to cook with their children. They're going to narrate the process of cooking. They're going to measure things out with their kids. They're going to have fun in the kitchen together. And that's what we've seen. And with the advent of WhatsApp as a major educational platform now during the pandemic, we know that parents are actually doing these behaviors at home because they're sharing the selfies with each other. They're sharing the photos and they're inspiring each other.
Anthony, can you tell us more about, what you've learned and how you plan to take these innovations from here?
Sure. On the next slide, we had an evaluation conducted by Dr. Susan Newman at NYU, who found this approach, this popular education approach that combines entertaining content that's in a relevant cultural form with a group process, a supportive group process. She called it singularly effective in parenting programs that are designed for the Hispanic community. And you can see on the screen, we've achieved really positive results. But with Zoom and WhatsApp, we're serving a smaller number of people than we'd like to. So with the partnership of Too Small to Fail and Univision, we've created a whole new set of digital resources that we want to present to all of you today that you might find useful in your work with parents and caregivers. Can we move to the next slide? And these resources are available on a new website that is launching right now. Congratulations, you're the first to see it. We hope you visited and like it and give us your comments and feedback, La Fuerza de Familias Latinas. And we have a number of important resources. And I'd like to show you the first one on the next slide is a series of videos. And the videos are short videos, they're about a minute and 10 seconds, and they're called Moments of Connection. Because we know the book is super important, but it's just the excuse for parents and caregivers to bond with their children. And that's where the magic, as you all know, that's where the magic happens of early childhood development. That's what's firing the synapse is the connection with another human. So we have a series of 10 videos. We're going to show you one here that take on sort of common issues in early childhood development, but through the lens of inspiring parents and caregivers around their role in connecting with children. So let's go ahead and play this video.
Mamá, ¿puedes hacer esto?
Muy bien, me encanta. A mi hijo le encanta cuando puedo poner la atención completamente. Le decimos a esos momentos nuestro tiempo especial. No le digo lo que tiene que hacer, solo dejo que él guíe el juego y yo lo sigo. Está muy grande esa torre. ¿No crees que se caiga? A ver, suéltalo a ver. A ver. ¡Ah! ¡Se va a caer! ¡Se va a caer! No pasa nada, no pasa nada. Durante nuestro tiempo especial, yo le demuestro a mi hijo lo maravillada que estoy por su imaginación. La pasamos muy bien, así sea por unos minutos.
So that's the approach to engaging parents with short videos. And on our website, you'll find 10 videos that are ready for you to disseminate to your parents and caregivers. And also on the website, you'll find some digital read-alouds. We have a handful of really high quality Spanish books for young children that have a digital read aloud. And then at the bottom of the page, you can scroll down and see photographs and text from the books. We're finding with a lot of our parents that access to books is an issue. And so we want to make some of the resources available to them online. Next slide. We also have a series of consejos. These are cards that you can share out on social media or via email. And these are inspired by the terrific work of Too Small to Fail and by the terrific work of a number of organizations that I saw on this website of providing tips and guidance to parents. But we've sort of, we've culturally located them within the tradition of La Loteria. And many families from Latin America and Mexico in particular will recognize this form of a quick scene, the name, and then some questions about it. And so you can see for El Mercado, you know, exploring the market with your children can motivate a love of learning. And there's some prompting questions, but really it's about the narrative. And so we have the narrative question right at the bottom, what stories can fruit tell us, right? What are the stories that the fruit inspire in your family, in your relationships? Because that's really, again, where the magic happens, is in the narrative, the stories, the transmission of people's culture, of addressing literacy and language promotion within the story of their families, within the story of their culture. And so that's what these cards are designed to do. Again, we have about a dozen of them on our website that you can easily share out with parents. And next slide. And if you do have an opportunity to visit the website and you're feeling inspired by the story here today, and you want to learn more, we have a monthly webinar, a monthly Zoom call for partners, where you can come and learn more about how others have put some of these digital resources to work in their communities. You can talk to us about bringing the Zoom workshops and the WhatsApp workshops to your community, get trained up to offer them yourself, and contribute to this growing movement. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Anthony. And just would like to give a big round of virtual applause to Claudia, Stephen, and Anthony for your really terrific presentations. Thank you three so much. And now what I'd like to do is move into some questions for our panelists. I'd love to engage the three of you in a conversation just to talk a little bit more about some of the cross-cutting issues that I heard. And then after we do that, we'll jump into some audience Q&A. The first question I'd love to direct to Stephen and to Anthony. Wondering if you can share a little bit about what we know about the role media can play in increasing parent knowledge about early literacy, and as well as shifting attitudes and behavior for parents to support their child's early brain development.
Sure, Patty, I'll start, and then maybe Anthony can jump in. I think what we know is that media does have that power to shift attitudes and behaviors on a range of issues, including, what we all know media to do, which is shift our shopping behaviors and the tastes, right, of like the preferences when we go shopping, right? And so advertisers spend billions of dollars to shift the audience's attitudes and behaviors and shopping preferences. And we've seen for many, many years that effective and high quality programming can also shift attitudes around a number of social issues. In fact, this work actually began in the telenovela format in Mexico in the 1980s. And Anthony, I know that you've done a lot of research in that space. Would you like to talk a little bit about how the telenovela in particular has proven to be such an effective format?
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. And I really feel like we're standing on the shoulders of giants, from Mexico in particular, where telenovelas took on social issues, be it literacy or be it family planning or other topics, and they drove huge audience response. The national hotline for adult literacy was flooded the day after the episode ran, and that's because the content really has hooked the audience. These are stories that people are engaged in, narratives that they want to follow. When the show is on, the cars pull off the road into the gas stations to huddle around the TVs. That's the way it sort of used to be. And that's what resonates with our audience. We're trying to serve the Latinx communities here in the United States with content that's relevant to them in a form that they already know what's going to happen, right? And they already know, the arc of this story. And so they can really see themselves in that arc because it's the stories they've been watching on Univision, when they were kids growing up.
Great, thank you both. So Stephen, we launched this partnership in 2014. It's only 6 years ago, but kind of a lifetime ago in the world of media, given how fast the media environment is continuously shifting. So can you talk a little bit about how the campaign has adapted to this very quickly changing media landscape and how the campaign's been able to kind of maximize viewership?
Yeah, well, I think that's a really great question because we have seen media consumption habits really change over the past 6 years. And that includes, and that has been driven in large part by Hispanic Americans, which are using their mobile phones and texting much more today than they were 6 years ago. And so we've tried to adapt, right? There are so many streaming options. There are so many other opportunities for entertainment. So we have built out strong text-based resources. we have, I think with this latest campaign that Anthony and Literacy Partners is leading, evolved to extend the reach of our campaigns into communities across the country through workshops and now virtual programming and events that we used to do before the pandemic. So lots of different ways that we've tried to reach parents where they are. I also just want to maybe offer Claudia here a chance to step in. Like, I think one of the tremendously valuable decisions that we made early on in partnerships that kind of came to bear was with Univision, because Univision has a very loyal audience. And while other networks and media companies have seen lower ratings, I think Univision has maintained strong ratings because it has a trusted and deeply connected relationship with its audience. The local Univision stations around the country are deeply embedded in the communities at which they operate. And in some ways, Univision is a de facto national kind of Hispanic community organization. And the local stations, I've visited many of them, and I'm always struck by like the calls that they receive from viewers asking for help when their child is sick, or if they are looking for daycare, or if they have a question about immigration or whatever issue might be on their mind. They look to Univision as a trusted source of information and support. And so, Claudia, I don't know if you want to, I know you've been with Univision for a long time too, and so would love to get your perspective on how the network has adapted and also really strengthened its relationship over the years with the audience.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. I think you touched a little bit on it. I think what really solidifies and strengthens that relationship with our community is our local affiliate stations across the country, mainly because they're in touch with the community. They have the pulse of what's going on a local level, and then they create all these resources and programs that fit to the community specifically. So while on a national network level, we create messaging that could be incorporated across the country, on a local level, they then make it more unique to that community specifically. And so I think that's what's been key in gaining the trust and gaining that unparalleled connection that we have to our audience. And I've seen it myself, like you mentioned, we have people that call the station all the time and they ask us like, what school can I enroll my child in? Or even when we have like free programs, they're like, can you walk me through this one by one? And I'll be on the phone with them and be like, yes, this is the first thing you do, and then do this, or I'll screenshot it and send. So everyone at the company is always willing to help out our audience, just because we know how much they need this help and all the resources that we provide. And so that's, like I mentioned, always been a part of who we are and who we will be continuing moving forward.
Claudia, I just had a follow-up question for you. I mean, it was a very bold idea to embed parenting messages into a telenovela. Can you tell us a little bit about how the idea came about and what were some of the risks involved, and how did you deal with those?
Yeah, so Anthony touched upon it too. This isn't a new concept. Like, there's always been these social impact messagings that have been incorporated into telenovelas back to the 80s. The first one was done by mistake, actually. It was a telenovela called Simplemente Maria. This woman, she became pregnant and had to give birth to her baby alone. So she bought a sewing machine, and she enrolled in literacy classes and sewing classes to help, better her life. And then after the telenovela aired, they saw a huge increase in enrollment in classes for literacy as well as in sewing. And the amount of sewing, the sewing machines increased tremendously. So it's been incredible to see the impact that a soap opera has. And so for us, there was a lot of risks involved, mainly because we wanted to make sure that the content that was creating was not only entertaining, but that also incorporating the right amount of messaging. Because at the end of the day, for us, yes, we're really focused on incorporating all these social impact issues, but our goal is to entertain our audience and make sure that they're actually tuning in to watch. Because if they're not tuning in to watch, then what's the point of incorporating all this messaging if no one's watching it at the end of the day? So for us, that was a major risk. It's having the right balance of having enough messaging while also making it very entertaining. And thankfully, the risk paid off. After the first La Fuerza de Creer aired, we received so much feedback from our audience about how this was meaningful and emotionally engaging and thought-provoking. And not only that, but it was also entertaining and fun to watch, and it evoked positive emotions. And I think, like I mentioned, the risk definitely paid off. We created a second series of La Fuerza de Creer, and now we're on to the third version of it. So I think that the company has realized what that you can create this meaningful content and also entertain people without having them tune off. And so for us, it's great to see this, and it's great to have partners that believe in it as well.
That's great. And I wanted to shift a little to a question for all of you. You know, what are the specific features of this programming format that make parenting messages more effective?
I'll touch on one, and I think both Stephen and Anthony mentioned about how it allows us to model behaviors, and how it allows us to model behaviors in a way that they can incorporate into their daily lives. So you can easily do that when you're creating television content, because you have the time to do so.
Yeah, I think as well, Patty, just kind of adding to that, in the first series of La Fuerza de Creer, which was just a few episodes, I think 2 episodes, we created that show inside of a pediatric clinic, and that was sort of the location of that series. And we delivered a lot of the messages sort of as pediatrician to visiting parent who was kind of visiting that clinic. And then of course there was all like the drama and suspense and love interest that you would expect from a telenovela. But some of the delivery of messages was really more direct, kind of pediatrician to parent. I think Anthony, when he joined us on the second season of La Fuerza de Creer as a kind of partner and real thought partner, I should say, and leader on this project, he really challenged us to think a little bit differently and model parent behaviors and inspire through empowering storytelling. And so in the second season, I think we did a better job we created inside of a community center and kind of showed all the struggles of what it's like to work in a community center. And we actually worked really closely with some real life community leaders from community centers in New York and LA and other places to kind of help inform the plot and some of the situations that our cast encountered over the 5 episodes. But it was much more about parents and caregivers in that series learning from each other and not always getting it right the first time, but like learning and growing and evolving over the course of the series. And because we had 5 hour-long episodes, which aired in prime time and in daytime, it was just like a really great opportunity to see the evolution of that community center. We almost treated the community center as if it was its own character. And what at the first episode sort of looked like, I guess, you know, what you would call a basic facility, by the end, thanks to what the community had learned and what the parents had learned and what the children had contributed, it was so full of life and dynamism, and even the angles of the shots, rather than being so kind of overhead looking down at the children, they were much more at the height, or like the height of the children, and really created that last episode. I was just so proud of that finale of that series, because it was just really, it felt like it was shot from the perspective of kids, and that parents were letting kids lead, and that the story had actually moved away from a crisis or drama at this community center, but one that was really like child-led. And I thought it was just a really powerful message that was happening in the background. And by the way, this episode performed incredibly well in the ratings. Actually, the whole season did. Episode over episode, we saw more viewers tuning in, and our finale was really a home run too. So we know that it's content that really works for the audience. And you know, for Univision, that's great, because strong ratings means more viewers. And so that serves everyone's interests.
I have a follow-up question for you, Anthony. So how did you make sure that the telenovela authentically reflected what real parents experience? And how did you think about that?
Yeah, great question, Patty. You know, I would add one other thing to the responses from Stephen and Claudia, is that one thing that's super helpful about this form is the emotions, right? And that's like core to the telenovela experience, is emotional content. And, you know, for me and our experience in with parent education, parenting is really an emotional job first and foremost. It's an intellectual job. It's a very demanding physical job, of course, but it's first and foremost an emotional job. And so having a venue that really prizes emotions and is not afraid to go there, and to have the really strong, no subtlety involved characters. It's very helpful. And I think, Stephen, you raised a really good point about this, that people don't get it right the first time. And that's how we all learn, right? Because if advice worked, God knows we'd all be perfect, right? We get a lot of advice in our lives, but it's that step by step, it's the trying, the repeating, the trying again. And that's how adults learn, and that's how children learn, and having a narrative structure that makes that work. And I think the last thing is really, we've mentioned this is a story about a community center, and it's a community center with a beloved childcare program. This is something that we all know about. Many of you operate and run programs just like this, but this center is threatened by real estate developers who want to build a golf course. So the story is of the community that has to rally together with the workers of the center to save the center. And so we're actually modeling something very important for communities across the country, right? And some of our very first workshops at Head Start programs, the Head Start directors were more interested in this aspect of the story of parent leaders coming together to save the center against budget crisis than they were in the educational messages around raising children. But that's really the lesson here, is you have to stay really close to your audience, right? And that's something that Univision, that's your bread and butter, right? And it's something that we all aspire to in nonprofit work, to really stay close to our audience and to reality check it with it. And we have students that we run these storylines by in our classes. We workshop different kinds of scenarios. We show some clips to, and we get that immediate feedback. And that was the process, how we could sort of hold ourselves to the what was going to ring true to people.
That's great. I'd love to shift the conversation a little bit to talk about impact, and would love to hear from all of you. Stephen, would love to have you talk about American University's evaluation of the work. Claudia, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about, not only viewership, but how the telenovela has been received internally. And Anthony, would love you to talk a little bit about, any other insights about what parents are seeing and what the impact you've seen by, just your work with parents to these workshops.
Sure, Patty. I'll start with just the American University work. So a couple of years ago, we worked closely with AU Center for Media and Social Impact to study the kind of overall audience impact against some of those measurement outcomes of all of our programming. So that includes kind of our news programming with Univision on Despierta America, the reality show integrations that kind of highlight real ways that parents are engaging with young ones to develop their early learning, and then the telenovela format. And what we found actually was that across all three formats, this type of content, parents who engage with this kind of content saw significant shifts in both their attitudes about early childhood development, the value of early childhood investments and engagement around early literacy, and in their reported behavior change, spending more time with their kids engaged in activities like talking, reading, and singing and counting. So that was really great news. We also heard from them that actually it was the telenovela format that allowed for the best or kind of strongest what's called the narrative transportation into the story, meaning you are kind of moved so much into that format, into that story, that you kind of become at one with that story and kind of embrace that as kind of part of your own life. And so, obviously news delivery is very informational, but there's something special about that longer format where you can kind of be transposed into the story and engage with the storyline. I think some of the video that Anthony showed about the workshops really shows what that narrative transportation looks like for the viewer. Second, I think with American University, we also tested the text messaging service that we have established for the campaign with Univision that serves as kind of an ongoing resource for parents to stay connected to this content and receive reminders, activities, tips, and support to encourage early learning. And so we started this text service. Anybody on this call, by the way, is welcome to join it by texting the word consejos to the number 26262. Very simple. Text consejos, CONSEJOS, to the number 26262, and we'll make sure we'll put that in the chat. So anybody on this call is able to join it. It's free to join. You're also encouraged to share it with your communities. Any parent in this country is welcome to join. We've had about 145,000 Hispanic parents join the service since we launched it, and about 55,000 who are active subscribers today. And they're receiving these messages 3 times a week. And what we found in our work with American University is that parents who subscribe to this service are twice as likely to engage in talking, reading, and singing daily with their children compared to the average, the national average for Hispanics. So twice as likely. And we think that's a pretty remarkable measure of impact. I'd also say that the families who subscribe to this service, more than 70% have shared the service or activities that they've learned from the service with their peers, parents, others in their community. So some pretty useful feedback.
Great. We'll go to Anthony and Claudia, and then I want to make sure we have time to shift to all the great questions coming in.
Yeah, when we did our first community screening of this program at a health center in Brooklyn, low-income neighborhood in Brooklyn, and we screened the episode of the novella, and my colleague Sandra Cespedes, who's on this call here, talked to the audience about what they had seen, and one woman stood up and said, who resonated with me the most, well, that's not how she said it, of course, but who resonated with me the most was the aunt who's raising her niece because the mom got deported. And she said, that's my story. My sister was deported and I had 2 children that I didn't know. And now I have to be their mother and I have to love them. We were all like, wow, this is incredible. And she finished her story and everybody was rapt with attention. And then another woman stood up and told an equally compelling story. So it's interesting, it's a broadcast, but it's a dialogue, right? And that's where the impact really comes from, is when people make the content their own and want to tell their stories. Then when you've got people in that space, you can help them with specific tactics and specific tools and resources. And what we've found is because parents go to that space of that level of engagement, their changes in behaviors are kind of through the roof. They're like much more likely to talk, sing, read, and play with their kids. They can name many more language-rich activities with their children, but it really starts with that kind of emotional engagement about a story that feels real, that inspires me to tell my story. And these are often not people that are called upon to tell their stories, right? We're really creating spaces where people can come together and tell their stories where they might not otherwise be able to.
Great.
And I'll quickly answer that, La Fuerza de Creer was received extremely positive within Univision, and its strong viewership in the past 2 seasons has allowed us to continue to do it. And we're always looking in ways in which we can incorporate it into all of our platforms. So now we cross-promote the SMS platform that Stephen was mentioning into the series. And then we incorporate a lot of the characters that you see within the soap opera into our morning show to cross-promote. So it's been greatly received within Univision.
Terrific. Thank you all so much. And now we're going to move into some questions that we've been receiving from the audience. The first is a 2-part question from Luis Bernal. And here's the question for all of you. How can we learn more about the help Hispanic communities are seeking at the moment around literacy and family engagement that can drive towards literacy outcomes? With a follow-up, and how can we learn where these communities seeking more resources are located?
Well, I think these communities are located all across the country. They're in every town and every city. What we've found with the pandemic, of course, is the spread of pre-K across the country that have been such a tremendous benefit to so many families has stopped dead in its track in many places. And parents are now at home and they are really challenged, of course, with work and with childcare and with early learning, and they're taking responsibility for early learning. So I think resources that we're able, as a large community of people on this call, able to share with them that give them a hand in doing that work that they're motivated to do, that they want to be doing. They just need a hand, quite frankly, and they need a community to be part of. And I think that's really what it is. And we've learned, I would say we've learned about the needs of the communities we serve, not from any academic study, not from any think tank, but from enrolling students and talking with them and observing what things are like with them. And now during the pandemic, we're invited into their homes over Zoom and over Google Classroom. And so we see what the environment is really like. And we have to really be on our game to try to accomplish our mission right now in this very moment, given whatever circumstance, whatever context you've got going on at home, and it probably involves your kids being in closer to contact with you than they may have been in a class prior to the pandemic. And so I think listening to the people, hearing their stories, and being nimble feels like the recipe to succeed in this environment.
And I'll just answer that too really quickly. That's something that we do a lot, is listening to our audience. One tactic that we use is through Facebook Lives. We do this a lot with our content where we have experts. We open it up to our audience to ask the experts directly questions. And so we listen a lot to what the questions that they're posing, to what is concerning them. And then we'll take that information and then we'll do another Facebook Live just specifically on a topic that we'll see recurring a lot within the chat. So that's one tactic that we.
We also have a question from Gabriela Lopez, who's wondering if there is similar programming that addresses needs as children get older.
I think I would say, first of all, thanks so much for that question. I know that Univision has done a lot of great work in the K-12 space and preparing high school students for success in college and beyond. And we're not, Too Small to Fail isn't directly connected to that work, but I've worked with Univision for many years and really applaud its leadership in that space. I know that Univision has worked with the Gates Foundation and other partners in the past on some kind of K-12 and college readiness programs. Is that right, Claudia?
Yes, that's correct, Stephen. So the one other way that we do it is we do education fairs in a lot of our local markets. And through the education fairs, we provide direct information to parents that seek out more, as well as content just similar to what you're seeing with our campaign with Too Small to Fail and Literacy Partners. We do the same for other K through 12 messaging as well. And even beyond K through 12, we have a lot of college resources as well. Because like I mentioned, we know that education is the number one issue that is of importance to our audience. So it's something that we focus on, not just from 0 to 5, but as they continue on.
Yeah, and I would say one other thing, when you work from a methodology of story, voice, and action, and you understand that the solutions are within the realm of the parents, not within the realm of the educators, this question is actually easier to deal with. And so we have found in our workshops that we serve the parents of the youngest children, but they often have older siblings. And so we didn't think of our materials as being applicable to 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th graders, but the parents can figure it out for themselves if they have the opportunity to come together and jointly brainstorm. And it's a question we can ask people: how would you adapt this idea for your older child? And the concept of moments of connection, while we've framed it really around early childhood, is actually critical for every age of your children. The dynamics are very, very different, and what that connection will look like is going to be very, very different. But that is where the magic happens at every age and across really every demographic and across every category that we might put children in, whether they're general education children or special needs children or bilingual children, English, whatever category these programs put people into. The solution, the starting point is really the same. It's those connections with the caring and trusted, loving adult, and it's resources and support for that caring and trusted, loving adult.
That's such an important point. Thanks, Anthony. And we also have a really terrific question from Claire Christensen about modeling. And here's the question. Do you incorporate negative modeling too, like showing someone taking a less advisable approach and seeing negative consequences? If so, how effective have you found negative modeling versus positive modeling?
Yeah, I'll say that's a great question. It was one that really kept us up late at night in the development of the scripts of the program. And the telenovela format, the origins of social change work through novellas does have that negative messaging. You have a transitional character that sort of wins and evolves, and then you have one that loses and loses everything because they behaved poorly and didn't follow the right. That's sort of the archetypal form of this. And what we have found in our particular work is that we don't want to give any more airtime to the struggles that parents have. We don't want to mirror back to parents the struggles that we all have when we lose our patience and we act, in ways we don't want to act with our children. We don't want to, but parents always talk about that. That always comes up in every modeling. And what you want to have is enough credibility in this story. You want to have enough suggestions of that. So you saw in a little tiny clip, the dad was kind of yelling at his kid. He didn't, smack him and beat him really badly, but people know that that's generally where that stuff goes. We know what it's like in our own homes. So you want to have credibility that you're not, like this isn't fantasy land. It's not fictional. Everything is not neat and tidy and doesn't work exactly the way it's supposed to the first time. But we think, our particular position is that we don't want to give, we want to acknowledge the struggles, but we don't want to demonize any character as being completely riddled with struggles and incapable of meeting the needs of their children. We want to show how people across a variety of circumstances, rich, poor, single, gay, straight, you name it, how they can all do well by their children, whatever their circumstance is. And that doing well isn't going to look the same in household one as it looks in household two, right?
Yeah, and I think you have to be realistic, like you mentioned, Anthony, but also the research has showed that the positive behavior leads to more change over a long term. So that's something that was really important for us too in La Fuerza de Querer.
Anthony, this question I think for you, and this is from Amber Peters. Are these partner meetings held in English or Spanish?
So both. So our work with parents is all in Spanish. Our website that we previewed earlier is fully bilingual. It's the default setting is in Spanish, and we host partner meetings bilingually. So we have some that are in English, depending upon who's signed up and what their language preference is. But we certainly do the work in Spanish first and foremost. And we'd love to have you at the next partner meeting. So please give us a shout and sign up to join us. We'd love to hear what you're thinking about.
Great. And a follow-up question from Amber for Claudia. Claudia, are all of the Univision programming available across the country? Is there an opportunity for local programming to partner with local organizations to inform local events or local laundromats that offer literacy opportunities, et cetera?
Yeah, so all the programming, all the content that we create, you can find on our website as well. So it's easily accessible to anyone across the country. But the most impact that you can have within a community is when you partner with our local affiliate stations. So absolutely, yes.
Great. Stephen, a question for you from Lynette Marshall. Who funds this text message program?
Thanks, Lynette, for asking that question. We have received support for many years from the Heising Simons and Packard Foundations. They have been instrumental not only in providing funding to support our work with Univision, but also to provide real thought leadership and partnership as we've developed the text platform. I'll also just flag that we're part of a consortium of major national text messaging providers that reach parents with these messages. And that group has been coordinated and assembled by the Packard and Overdeck Foundations. And we've learned so much from that group and iterated over the years thanks to their great leadership.
Here's a question for all of you from an anonymous attendee. Are there assets or tools to leverage for us to drive engagement?
Yeah, so I would encourage folks to just take a look at this incredible new resource that Anthony debuted on today's webinar. It's really phenomenal. And what I think is so special about it is that it leverages a lot of the high quality production content from our campaign with Univision. We sort of took the best of and tried to really focus on at-home activities that model parent-child interaction and really create these kind of conversation prompts, like that short video that you saw Anthony share. Coming soon, we're creating kind of a set of short talk show episodes, about 5 minutes each, that dive a little deeper into some of the topics. And these talk shows are hosted by one of the key characters from our telenovela, who's someone who's very special to the Hispanic community, and someone that the Univision audience really knows. And so these talk show episodes are going to live on the Fuerza de Familias Latinas website and will be available to share. I mean, they're all housed on YouTube, so you can share that. You can share the site. promote it on social media. So I would encourage you to do that. And for any organization that wants some of this content, a lot of it is available rights-free to use in your own workshops or outreach with parents. You're more than welcome to reach out to us at Too Small to Fail, and we can curate that content for you and just make sure that we have it available, including the text-based resource that I shared earlier, which is totally free to share and promote and circulate amongst your communities.
And I would add just one quick thing, that the resources available on the website that we were talking about earlier and the workshop series itself that's available over Zoom are all standards aligned. So if this is an area where you're trying to advance a particular set of early learning standards, you can contact us and we'll show you exactly how the content meets those particular needs. And we have design that we can share with you about how to use each of these elements with your community. But we also recognize that these are assets that can be used in an open source kind of way, that you know your communities and you know where your parents are at in particular, and how once you get more familiar with these assets, you can figure out ways of using them and share back with the rest of the community about how you've done so.
Great. We have a few questions left that we'll try and get to in the maybe 6 minutes or so we have remaining. A comment and a question from Karen Nemeth. These are great resources and initiatives, but I always worry about the families that are not accessing these things. They may be the families who need the most support. Have you investigated what we can learn about families in the community who don't tune in, and what might be alternative ways to reach them? Great question.
I'm happy to, go ahead, Claudia.
No, I was going to say that is a great question. And I think what Anthony is doing is a great answer to that, but go ahead, Stephen.
Well, I think that one of the great lessons learned of this approach is that partnering with Univision was a really beneficial kind of relationship that we've leveraged over the years to meet parents where they are across lots of different formats. And I think Univision is one of the biggest possible tents that you can possibly find to reach Spanish language or speaking Hispanics in this country. It is, I'm Cuban American and I grew up with my family watching Univision all the time. It's sort of always on in the background. And I think that's the case for a lot of Hispanic homes across the country. And we know that its viewership includes a wide swath of the Spanish speaking Hispanic population in this country. Rich, poor, young, old, like it really does reach lots of Hispanic families, and not just parents, but grandparents and other caregivers. And so the power of that network in particular, and all those radio properties and cable networks and everything that Univision brings, in addition to the kind of the core television network, really is a big tent. I'll say too that the kind of community activations, workshops, community fairs, education fairs, social media content, all of the kind of the surround sound, I think has been really important and special. And I think there's still a lot more that we can do. And so I'm just excited about hearing from folks on the call today who are interested in this work or have ideas about how we can extend this work more fully into your communities. Please be in touch with us. The reason that we do this is to not only kind of highlight the work that's been going on, but to really inspire new ideas and inspire you to work with us in extending the reach of this content, of this great programming that Anthony and his team have produced, of all the great work that Claudia and her team have led. We're excited to create the next iteration of Pequeños y Valiosos and look forward to your ideas and suggestions.
Great. A question from April Aguinaca. Are there resources we can share with our families via recordings, as we're doing most of our programming virtually? We use WebEx and record on YouTube.
Sure. I think all of the video content that is on our website can absolutely be loaded up and shared via those platforms. Absolutely. And we also, we generally have a WhatsApp group for all of our workshops, and there we support parents to find other parents in their community that they're already connected to on WhatsApp, and they take leadership in helping their communities to access content.
Great.
And same for our content. All of our content is available on our website, so you could just easily get the links and then show them via Zoom.
We have about 2 or 3 more questions we want to get to. So we'll try and see if we can get through them both in the next just couple minutes. An anonymous attendee has posed this question: is there a component that focuses on strengthening the homeschool partnership and family engagement, i.e. parents and teachers as co-educators, parents as advocates, schools honoring that role, incorporating home cultures into teaching and learning?
We have some of that work, some of those issues in the works. What you find on the website doesn't speak to those issues directly, but we have some content, as Stephen mentioned. A new talk show is in production, and that's going to be one of the themes of the talk show, is the school and home connection and those issues that you mentioned, which I think is super important. And I think and I would hope that school districts also take inspiration from this work about shifting some of our perspective from delivering messages and explaining things to parents to sharing narratives and co-creating stories that help everyone to envision how families can flourish during pandemic and post-pandemic.
Great. And then we have a question from Lynette Marshall. Has this hugely impactful work you're doing led to the Bezos and Clinton Foundations expanding the reach into the lives of families for whom the pandemic has further exposed disparities in access and connectivity? I'll just share a little bit briefly about the Clinton Foundation. I mean, since March, as Stephen mentioned in his presentation, we've been really thinking very hard about how we reach families who have been most affected by the pandemic. And as Stephen shared, we did an indoor activities toolkit that first we started just, honestly spreading electronically through our national and local partners, and then really started thinking about connectivity and how we really get resources in the hands of parents who need them most and who may not have connectivity. And so that prompted us to really partner with food distribution centers like World Central Kitchen, food banks, diaper banks, laundromats, essential services, and really going to where families are to get resources to them. And that has kind of been the mainstay of our work. We also have 32 local community campaigns across the country, on the ground in cities across the country, as well as 2 statewide campaigns in Michigan and New York. And so for us, it's really all about getting resources to families, meeting them where they are, also through our work. And this has been expanded since COVID-19. Too Small to Fail has delivered about 1.2 million children's books to families through these partners that I've mentioned, as well as others, including local libraries, because I noticed that someone mentioned local libraries. And for us, we feel like we can't talk about the importance of talk, reading, and singing without giving parents access to the tools to be able to do that. But I agree with you, connectivity is a huge issue when so many resources kind of exist online and so many families still don't have regular access, which is also why text has been so important. So just would love to turn it to the group to talk about this issue a little bit more, about access and connectivity.
And do you want to start?
Sure.
Yeah, I think you make a great point, Patty, that in this day and age, access and connectivity is a multifaceted strategy, right? There's places where people are picking up food, schools may be open, they may be closed. There's, finding parents and families where they're at is critically important, and having a text messaging platform that's easy to sign up for, and then you kind of can be in regular contact and they can click on links to scaffold up to more and more resources, I think is incredibly valuable. And I know from our part, when we were doing this work in April and May, sort of really at the height of the pandemic in New York, our parents that were part of our Zoom and WhatsApp groups were telling us this is the only resource they have. It's the only resource they have around parenting, and it's the only time they're connecting with other parents too, which I think is really critically important. And leveraging parent leaders, I think is our vision for success in this particular challenge.
Others want to weigh in on this? Okay, thank you guys so much for your terrific answers to these questions. And I'm going to turn it back over to Emily.
Always click the mute button. I'm just blown away. I mean, you know, I get to plan a lot of these GLR webinars, and this is just an incredible, incredible discussion. Thank you to Claudia and Patty and Anthony and Stephen, and thank you to all of the rest of you who are asking these incredible questions, such good questions. I mean, what a great, great conversation. So thank you all for your time. I know we're a minute over, so all I was going to do is encourage you all to join us for a future GLR webinar. I expect they'll be just as great as today, although this was pretty special. But next week so the next 2 weeks, we've got 2 double headers. So you can see the information on the slide. Encourage you to register and join us. And I cannot thank you all enough. And thank you for your time today. And we will see you again soon. Thanks, everybody. And we'll close this out.
Thank you.